Alright, welcome back, guys. Welcome back to the path. Welcome back to this new series called After Church is After Church. So, After Church is basically a space which I want to use to discuss very like what life is like in a church and with living with other people and the realities that come with that. So, definitely just like going through like what it means to be making friends in a church, finding a church, these different experiences that you go through, and like what makes a good church, and just like trying to explore those different dynamics that happen in a church. I want it to be as just as real as possible, man. It's a lot of this is going to be based on like my experiences at church, and I want to like look at different aspects of church and understanding like what that means, and hopefully to just like shine a positive light on just the church body and what it means to live in that community. So, with this being the first episode, I wanted to basically just start off with like my story because I have had a very interesting relationship with church for the longest, and it's only very recently where it has actually changed. And like now, I can be like, oh yeah, I like going to church, compared to like very shit. Even like 2 months back, you could even talk about like 2 months, I wasn't going to church. And so, to begin off, from my personal experience, I grew up in a church. I grew up, my mom made sure we went to church. My mom made sure we went to church every Sunday, 8 a.m., half past 8, we were there. Either went, well, I come from an Anglican background, so I was definitely in an Anglican church my whole life. So, not whole life, but whole life when I was living at home. So, what's that, 0 to 18 years old? That's when I came to uni. And then when I came to uni, that was a shift. It was a big shift because first of all, I had to look for a church, right? So I had to look for a church, and that was something which I wasn't. I would say that me looking for a church it's and me, I think that like that was like the first stumbling block which I used like as an excuse to stop going to church, was like, okay, I don't have a church anymore, so I didn't have any ties to go anywhere, right? And then the second one was also, I was also in a very I was in a very bad place as in my walk with God. I would say that it wasn't as consistent and it wasn't as serious, or I didn't understand what it really meant and what the importance of going to church was. So I would say like from first year to third year, there were times that I would be serious. It would be really like up and down. Like some days I'll go to like I have like streaks. Like I'll go to church for like, let's say, 3 weeks in a row, and then not go for like the next month. Go church again for another 2 weeks, not go for the next month, and would be very stop and go, stop and go. And in the background of all of that, I'm still dealing with my own like struggles with porn as well. So I'm also dealing with that, and this is happening, and this is like taking me out. It's also that thing of like you are. There was a point where I went into definitely like a dark place where I was like, I just felt like empty and ashamed of like going to church, and like, brother, there's no use. I'm still gonna struggle with this. So like, what's the point? And so yeah, I just wouldn't. I wouldn't go to church. My sister would invite me sometimes. When my sister would invite me, I'd go. Um, and I would say that there was like I didn't experience any church hurt, so it's not like that wasn't a factor. I think everything just happened internally, and I think another thing as well that I'll also include is like my anxiety and my social anxiety of like being in a space where which a new space with new people, and it's that was so uncomfortable. Like it's really, I think that's also another thing is like, as much as church is a very safe place, so unfortunately some people are just like they have, it's not necessarily about the place. Sometimes it's also about the people. I'm dealing with like a lot of like, when I'm in a new place, I don't like meeting new people, when everything is like you don't know where you fit, you don't know who to talk to, you don't know like what's the vibe, how do I approach this, how do I go through this. That also like put me off. So like these are all of the things that are like going on in the background of like why those 3 years, like going up to like why I stopped, why I wouldn't say stop, but wouldn't go to church like as often. And so that was those 3 years. That was first year to third year, right? Fourth year was very interesting, right? Because or fifth year. Should I say fifth year? Because okay, so I repeated my fourth year. So I'll say fourth year is very interesting. My fifth year basically is very interesting because I would at in October 2023 I reconnected with God, right? And that was one of the first times where I really took it. I won't even say seriously, but I had a more deeper understanding of who God is, and I had a deeper relationship with Him, and that was something which I began to value, and I began to center my life around God. And during that time, that's when a lot of different things are like coming off. Like I started doing more YouTube more consistently. I started reading my Bible more consistently, like trying to understand like different I wanted to understand my role within the body, the body of Christ. And that was a turning point. 2023 from October was a turning point. And what is interesting about that time is that during the time when my relationship with God is growing, my relationship with church didn't change. I think I actually like was before I would like go to church sometimes. Now I just wouldn't go. But it wasn't a situation where my relationship with God is like hurting. It's just I wouldn't go to church. And it's not like I was like not choosing. I was choosing not to go, but it's not like I was having any challenges or anything. I just wouldn't go to church. And so I just basically spend my Sundays like sleeping and reading the Bible and just enjoy. And that time was like my rest. I would usually like those Sundays were really beautiful for me. Like that's how my 2024 literally until like when August. I'll say August. Yeah, until August. That's literally like how I spend my Sundays, just chilling in my room, reading my Bible, watching sermons, and that. And that was like how I would enjoy it. And so only recently when I started going to church where I realized like that was no, I would say that that was very interesting because I would always assume that me not going to church was me not being able to have a relationship with God. But that time for me kind of like it showed me that you can still like have that relationship with God and not necessarily go to church. And then, but what happened in August is I was invited to church with by a very good friend of mine, and she invited me to a church in what's she invited me to Heritage Baptist Church, and specifically their young adults service, what is it, young adults hangout, what do they call it, young adults. She invited me to this young adults meeting, or just like the gathering that they have like for youth and stuff. And I think the first meeting that I went to, my mind was blown. My mind was literally blown because the fact that not her, but the fact, just like the people, the conversations that they were having, the community, like just observing how they approached each other, how they literally like, it felt like there were certain points where it literally felt like it literally felt like heaven at times. Just like the conversations, how focused they were on God, how deep, how smart, how deeply aware that these young people were about God. It literally like opened my mind to, because I never knew that that was possible. I never knew that this was happening, honestly, because I'd been to young adults ministries before, but like that this was different. And from there I went to like a couple. All of them were amazing. I'd just like to also like um what do I say, shout out, I can't say shout out, but like what do you say, congratulate like Pastor Lelo and Pastor Benji, and those guys who like, and also like the deacons and the elders and members who like make that Heritage Baptist Church what it is, because the culture that they've built and the church that they've built is truly, it is so biblically sound and so welcoming and so like encouraging to see, as like someone at the time was like an outsider. Like it really touched my heart. And so yeah, so that just like opened my mind about church. And from there, at the time when I was in a relationship, there was a moment where there was actually it was a couple of things, right? So there was two things I would say, or should I say three? There were three things. The first one was there was this day when I wouldn't say but my girlfriend brought at the time she brought up the fact that um going to church is like an important thing, for a relationship. And the fact that I wasn't going to a relationship as a man, it doesn't set a good like it's not a good look. It's not a good as a leader, as someone who is like at that as in when you're in a relationship, you are kind of like you are going to have to lead your family spiritually. And for me not going to church, that was a form of me not fulfilling my role, even though I wasn't a husband or anything. I was just, but even in that, even in this, when we're still like when we're still like working towards that, there should be that idea of like you are preparing to lead your family spiritually, lead your family to within a community, and also with what's the word, with accountability as well, because you don't want your relationship to be just in the dark. You need to have accountability. You need to have all of these different things. And I think we had a couple of conversations, and then also my one of my very good friends, Junior as well. He just kept it blunt. Like you have to go to church. You can't expect to be a boyfriend. You can't expect to be a husband and not go to church. And that was that wake up call for me, because those two conversations, and then the third one for me was also there was this personal like conviction, and there was this personal conviction around I want to go to this church. And I chose, and there was a point where I had to choose Heritage Baptist Church. And before then, I'd always, there are like group of people who are like just searching for churches, but there comes a point where you have to choose. You have to choose a church. And for me, there was like this personal conviction of like, God, I can see there's so many good things which are here in this church. And I made a conscious decision to choose Heritage. And from then moving on, that became like something. Within those three conversations with my girlfriend at the time, my best friend, and also me, that personal conviction, those three things literally like formed this. It was, I wouldn't say I loved church at that time still, but it made me know that I am supposed to go to church. I'm supposed to go to church every Sunday. I should be going to church. And now it is not only like, it's not only you ask maybe sometimes, no, I have to. It is because I have chosen this, because I am accountable to other people, and also because I've been also called out to go to church. And from then that began that this was all happened like from August until now. That began my, now I'm going to Sunday services. And I wouldn't say it was smooth sailing from there. Then I'm still facing, as I said, I'm still facing challenges. I'm still facing the challenges of social anxiety, still facing the challenges of feeling like I'm not, I feel like I don't have, what's the word, feeling out of place, feeling, scared, just scared and fearful of like of me being there. Like there were points where, not points, I would go to church, but then I would always go as soon as service finished. I would do two things. Either I would go home straight away, literally dip, bro, literally just dip and head home straight, or I would go, or I would sit I would wait for everyone to leave and then come back and sit down and read my Bible. Those are the two things that I would do. Those, and I would do that consistently for, I think this happened for about a month or so, month and a half maybe, of just me after church, go home or sit alone, not talk to anyone. And also at YA services, same thing. Go home straight away or sit alone, not engage with any person, not engage with anyone, not try to talk to anyone. Same thing. And what changed? Um, there was something that changed. I can't remember, but there was something. It was probably Pastor Lelo. I think it was Pastor Lelo. I think it was a combination of Pastor Lelo. He but the pastor at Heritage, he shared this message about like what it means to be a part of a church, and the fact that you can't just be here to just sit and then take and then leave, you know. And that was very convicting because um it was that message was just convicting in itself, in terms of like you don't just a church is not supposed to be like a place where you can just like take what you want and then go. It's a place of service, right? It's a place of community. And then the other thing was, there was a day when I was that was actually very recently. It was one of the last YA services or gatherings I went to, where I was sitting alone, and this time I truly felt so empty. I felt empty because I knew that I should be talking to people. I knew that in this space where I am with other people, I have an opportunity to be poured into, but also to pour into others. And I have an opportunity to be stewarded, to learn, to enjoy, like literally to enjoy. Like church is such a beautiful place where it's like church is a place like no other, where you can come in and truly be one under the Lord, and allow God to literally like be with you and to govern your conversations. And it's like there's no other place like that, you know. And there was just like this one. The last time I went was just like this feeling of like emptiness, of like I know I shouldn't be sitting alone. I know I should be talking to people. I know that the next step for me in this journey of being in this church is now expanding my relationships. I think also therapy was another thing that actually impacted that as well, because I started going to therapy, and and I believe it might have been in my second session. The psychologist brought up the fact that I choose not to communicate or not to build new relationships because one, I'm comfortable in the relationships I have, and two, because I'm not pushing myself. And that is something which has limited me for so long, because there are so many fruitful and beautiful relationships which I could have had, but I chose not to because I held myself back. And so that last time when I was at YA, there was just like this emptiness that was stemming from all of these different places of like me, my of just like these different convictions, of these different understandings of what church is and all of that. And so that day I made a it was a day when I just made like a what? What's the word? I made a declaration. Let's still go with declaration. I made a declaration that I will at least I will speak to one person every service, even if it's one person, but I will have a conversation with one person. I will have a conversation with people. I will listen to people. I will not just come to church and go and sit alone. I'm going to go into the group, even though it's uncomfortable, even though it sucks, even though sometimes I hate my social batteries die like very, very quickly. But I will stay there, and I will finish the conversation, and I will stay on until basically everyone is gone. And this was 2 weeks back, literally. This is 2 weeks back, is it? Yes, it's 2 weeks back. 2 or 3, no, this is actually 2 weeks back. Yep, 2 weeks back. 2 weeks. 2 weeks back. When after the service, I before the service I texted my friend called Simpiwe, and I was like, hey, I would like you to just help me to like meet people at church, help me to talk to people, help me to communicate, help me to like just have to build relationships. And what's crazy about that day is I even woke up late for church. I woke up at 10:30. No, did I wake up at 10:30? I think I woke. Yeah, I definitely woke up. I woke up at 10:30, and church starts at 9:30. So imagine it's a whole hour's gone, and I still went to church. I still went to church because I knew that I have that responsibility. That after church I need to meet people, and I still went to church. And I remember that day I appreciate. Thank you so much for Imperial. I went and I spoke to people. I met new people. I greeted as many people as I could, and I had such amazing and fruitful and like Holy Spirit led conversations that like have literally like still impacted me today, and still have led to like so many amazing conversations, and even like friendships that I'm cultivating right now. So for me, it's so, yeah, that why I look at why I'm even focusing on after church is because the beauty of church for me is like a lot of it. Church is a beautiful thing, but after church for me is like I've seen is that's what church is. Church is we have that be after church is the moment where you get to like you speak to people, you get to learn more about people, you get to understand who people are, you get to also like be put in situations where you have to communicate. You know, you have to be vulnerable, you have to be honest about your about who you are, but like how your week is, and you have to choose to do that. And so that has been my experience at that's been like my the reason why I've been like I've becoming more passionate about after not after church but church and as a about going to church. And that has been my journey, because it wasn't just like I didn't just start going to church, I didn't start enjoying church, but I have learned to gain a deep appreciation for church, and a deep appreciation for loving the people, for loving people and being a part of a body. And yeah, man. And I think honestly, if I just to also add like this comes from a honestly a space where these are prayers that have been answered, not by me, but by the people who have cared about me, you know, by good friends, by family, my mom, you know, it's been a very I have to say I'm appreciative, and I know that I'm not here because of anything that I've done, and I think that's also has given me like this also additional appreciation for church, and specifically also heritage as a church, as church that I chose is like that is why I'm not there because of just like my own effort or will, but it's also by the prayers of other people. And so man, I truly appreciate it, man. Truly appreciate it. Yeah. So that's my experience at church. That's my experience in learning to love church and choosing a church. And yeah, now with what after church will be, man, it's just for us to be able to speak about church, to have space to hold different conversations that like develop and questions. You know, we're here to grow, man. I'm here to grow. I'm here to learn more about church, man. So I can also continue to just gain that love for it more, man. And yeah, hopefully this is a good introduction. This is a space where I hope we continue to just develop these relationships. We can have hopefully even like guests on, hopefully pastors on. Yo, we can get pastors, church members, deacons. What else? Uh, Everyone at church, man. Everyone at church to come through, man. That would be so fun. So yeah, man. That is it, man. That is it from me. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you. I appreciate you clicking. I appreciate you. You appreciate your presence. Appreciate your presence, man. One of the simple things. Just appreciate your presence and you listening. Yeah. Let me like what just let me know like what your experience with church was like. There's no one thing I also want to make notice is like there's no boring like church story. There's no interesting church story. But like, how did you choose your church? How did you learn to love church? How did you fall out of loving church? How did you come back to church? I would love to hear your stories as well. So let me know about that too. And yeah, thank you so much for watching.